How do you feel about the user interface, Justin? This is clearly like there's some kind of adjustments to how the feature works in Google Analytics. So now it's not just a goal; it's an event. It seems like there's a little bit of, I don't know if hand holding is the right word, but they're kind of having some guided steps to help you set up. I'm just curious, what is your take so far after, we spent a lot of time reviewing this and what that has in play. What does it feel like to you? Do you feel like it's a step forward, or is it kind of more of the same? Not necessarily a bad thing, but
No, I do believe it is a step forward. I think they're kind of taken Google Analytics and they were kind of building on top of it organically how they felt users were needing it, and now they've kind of stepped back and said, okay, well, how are users actually using this? And really, they're kind of using the data. And really think the biggest change that we're going to see here is the life cycle reporting. We're going to be able to look back at a certain user and stuff like that. As far as the events and how they're tracking with goals, I think it makes a lot more sense because these events are kind of things that happen on the site on a regular basis, such as clicks, page views. And if we're able to measure those as events and then kind of chain those events together to understand how our user is interacting with our site and how that conversion is being submitted or acted upon in the site, then I think it's going to give us more valuable data.
The idea of the life cycle tracking, I think that's something that's really got my attention, right? So, when we're doing our own research and analysis for our own clients, we do a lot of work in digital marketing, pay-per-click advertising management. That involves all kinds of things to get success. Like, the website comes into play, landing pages, conversion optimization, a lot of important stuff there. And so thinking about the path of the engagement that somebody takes through this, right? So it's like, hey, they see an ad, there's an optimization there. They click through it, they get to the website, they get on a certain page, observing how they interact with that. Where do they go from there? Do they take the action that we want? How does that end up into the sales funnel? Where does it go from there? So many interesting things. And so it sounds to me like Google Analytics is going to allow for somewhat more tracking and understanding of a user and how they're interacting with the website over time. That's pretty compelling to me. I mean, how much does that really entail?
Yeah, I think one of the big things is that you're going to be able to see a user came back to your site and then they thought about you again, came back to your site, or found another advertisement and somehow clicked on it and came back to your site. So you're going to be able to say, all right, this user came back to my site twice, and the second time they converted. So what made them convert that second time?
Yeah.
So,
but we know that, with users right now, you can see like breakdowns of traffic that comes to your website where it's the first time visit, right? Like new visitors versus like recurring. And that's always an interesting thing to see. That's a good signal for like, hey, is the regular content we put out, is it appealing enough that people keep coming back for more? Or is it all advertising driven? It's all intent based and you're just coming to one time, they get the help they need and they don't ever come back. I mean, that may not be part of your content model or content strategy. Maybe you're not all about regular content that, is being updated and whatever. But, if it is, seeing how people keep coming back for more, because you can see that kind of thing with newsletters, with email marketing, right? You can see who opens your newsletter and how often, and do they click on stuff, which is really compelling because it allows you to kind of fine tune those newsletters and that email campaign to really serve the needs of your audience, right? I mean, what was your kind of take on all that, Sarah? I'm loving this.
I mean, I think that's amazing. I mean, I know that a lot of the time when we're looking at certain things, we're trying to find out like, oh, this person, they said that they've been to our site before. Are we able to see that? And no, we're not. So I think it's really cool that we're going to be able to see that. It'll be really helpful for marketing decisions. Sometimes even within the same session, we have a difficult time understanding like how a customer, how a visitor made their way through the site. And actually on that same note, David, you kind of mentioned hand-holding earlier as far as how the system works. And it was interesting that you mentioned that because one of the things that Justin and I noticed was that the new interface, it's a little more bubbly, like it's a little more almost a cartoony interface. And historically, one of the complaints with Google Analytics is that it is a difficult to maneuver and difficult to understand interface. So Justin, can you explain like what you've seen with that happening, and are we losing any ability to use it with that new interface and that easy to understand and like more guided approach?
I don't think we are. I think the biggest thing that I've noticed is they've kind of they've kind of segregated and they kind of made it where you can kind of build your own platform of a Google Analytics for. So you can say, this is what is important to me. This is what should be featured on my my dashboard, or this is what is important for me to be viewed. So it's really very customizable to what is exactly needed for your business as far as advertising. So it's not gonna really set you out of the box. You're not gonna be it's not gonna work for you perfectly. You're gonna have to set Google Analytics up to work for your company. So these new reportings that they have these, and we can go. This is probably a topic for itself, but they have these new reporting tools that were originally only included for Google 360 customers, but has now been pulled into Google Analytics 4 and is accessible for all Google Analytics 4 users.
Nice.
Yeah.
Love that free stuff.
Yep. So 360, the reporting is going to be really good because we can create these reports, save them as reports that we can look at on a regular basis that has the information that we want to see, and we can customize these reports as much as possible. They're very, very robust. So I think it's really, the thing is it does give a little hand holding through the process, and it's going to give you some upfront data of what you need to see as far as like page views and stuff like that. But for it to really work with your business, you're really going to have to kind of sit down and understand, what do you want Google Analytics 4 to feature to you.
That's great. And one of the things that Google has always been really, really good about is that it does have that customizable aspect, but it seems like being able to customize it for your business, it's kind of a one and done thing. Like you do it and it's set up that way, and you don't have to go through and like stack it each time you're in there again.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, once you've created these reports, you can just come back and say you rerun these reports based on your audiences or the new data that has been collected, and then also, you can come if you have a new report that you need to set up, you can easily go in there and set that report up and save it. So I think it's going to be great.
Hi, this is Sarah from Denverdata Web. Thanks for watching. Please like our video and subscribe for future digital strategy chats. You can also visit our website at denverdata.com or find us on social media at Denverdata Web.